raised in the legislature back then, but somehow I have absolutely don't know nothing about. And they frame me,
Sir, you don't believe you're crazy, do you?
No, I don't think I'm crazy, no.
And you do know the difference between right and wrong?
Yes.
So you know murder is wrong?
Murder is a different name for a death, but yes.
He killed a police officer, and his pregnant ex-girlfriend then faced the court with shocking defiance. Mari Floyd's courtroom outbursts became legendary as he screamed, "They frame me," while evidence mounted against him. But what happened when the jury returned with their final decision? The confrontation unfolded in an Orlando Walmart, where Lieutenant Deborah Clayton responded to a routine shoplifting call. She encountered Mari Floyd, who was already a wanted man for questioning in the murder of his pregnant ex-girlfriend, having grown up in a troubled environment with limited formal education that left him without the tools to navigate life's challenges constructively. Often turning to street life instead, Floyd viewed the officer as an immediate threat to his freedom and made a sudden decision that would escalate everything. He drew a concealed weapon and fired 4 shots, killing Lieutenant Clayton in the store, breaching Florida Statute 782.04 on first-degree murder, which defines premeditated killing as a capital felony punishable by death. This act of violence transformed Floyd from a murder suspect into Florida's most wanted fugitive, directly violating laws against unlawful discharge of a firearm in public spaces under Florida Statute 790.15, endangering civilians and law enforcement alike. A massive manhunt followed, with law enforcement agencies deploying extensive resources to locate him. Infrared footage captured his final moments before capture, showing his desperate attempts to evade authorities. The SWAT intervention resulted in severe injuries for Floyd, including the loss of an eye from the confrontation. These physical injuries would later become part of his courtroom identity, visible reminders of his violent resistance. His capture ended with him crawling to surrender, physically marked by the encounter that finalized his apprehension. The Walmart ambush set the pattern for what would follow: extreme violence met with overwhelming force, creating the foundation for his defiant courtroom persona. Every aspect of this initial confrontation foreshadowed how he would confront the justice system, beginning with brutal action and ending with irreversible consequences. Mari Floyd entered the courtroom bearing the physical evidence of his violent resistance. His blinded eye and facial injuries served as permanent markers of his refusal to surrender peacefully to authorities. These visible wounds became part of his identity throughout the proceedings, a constant reminder of the confrontation that led to his capture, culminating in a death sentence under Florida's capital punishment statutes, reflecting the gravity of murdering a law enforcement officer. Prosecutors methodically presented overwhelming evidence connecting him to both murders. They detailed the shooting of Lieutenant Clayton and the killing of his pregnant ex-girlfriend with forensic precision. Instead of showing remorse or engaging with the legal process, Floyd unleashed a series of bizarre and defiant outbursts that disrupted the proceedings. He repeatedly screamed about being framed, his words often incoherent, but his anger unmistakable throughout the courtroom. One particularly memorable declaration echoed off the walls: "I'm the back then, but some I have absolutely don't know nothing about, and they frame me, they frame me." This statement, delivered with intense emotion, underscored his persistent claim of innocence, despite the mounting evidence against him. This courtroom performance represented raw, unfiltered defiance, rather than any calculated legal strategy. Each outburst reinforced the prosecution's narrative of a remorseless killer who refused to accept responsibility for his actions. The jury observed Floyd directly challenging the justice system that sought to hold him accountable for his crimes. His behavior created a stark contrast between the civilized proceedings of the court and the brutal nature of the murders he committed. He even threatened the judge during one exchange, receiving a warning to "watch your tone and the way you speak." This consistent pattern of aggression and denial painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual whose actions in court only strengthened the case for the most severe punishment. The raw footage from these appearances shows a man who seemed to revel in the chaos he created. His verbal assaults were not momentary losses of control, but a sustained performance of defiance that would ultimately influence the jury's final decision about his fate. While Maury Floyd faced his fate in Florida, another killer embarked on his own violent journey that would demonstrate a different form of courtroom defiance.
Do you not realize that? I got Nico Jenkins. I got you.
What do you mean you got me?
I got your DNA at the murder scene. I got your DNA in the car.
Sir.
I got the weapon. I got Nico Jenkins.
Nico Jenkins had been recently released from a youth facility when he initiated a 10-day killing spree across Omaha that left 4 people dead. His own history, marked by severe mental illness, diagnosed at age 8 in minimal schooling, interrupted by early incarcerations and juvenile detention, which failed to provide the therapeutic education needed to curb his violent tendencies. His crimes followed a pattern of calculated brutality that shocked the community and set the stage for another extraordinary legal confrontation. Jenkins left behind crucial DNA evidence at multiple crime scenes that would become the foundation of the case against him. Investigators also recovered the murder weapon, providing concrete physical proof connecting him to the killings. This overwhelming forensic evidence created an airtight case that no competent defense attorney could easily challenge. Unlike Floyd's emotional outbursts and loud protests, Jenkins adopted a cold, unapologetic posture throughout his legal proceedings. He made the strategic decision to waive his right to a jury trial, opting instead for a 3-judge panel to determine his fate. This move reflected his desire to control the narrative of his case and bypass any potential jury sympathy that might have arisen from emotional appeals. He showed no visible emotion as prosecutors detailed the overwhelming evidence against him, maintaining a stoic demeanor that contrasted sharply with the brutality of his actions. Jenkins entered a plea of no contest to all 4 counts of first-degree murder, meaning he did not formally admit guilt, but also did not contest the factual allegations presented by the prosecution. The 3-judge panel recognized the murders as deliberate, pre-selected, and purposeful acts that warranted the most severe punishment available under the law, invoking Nebraska Revised Statute 28-303 for first-degree murder, classifying such acts as capital offenses eligible for execution. His courtroom strategy demonstrated a chillingly calculated approach to the legal process. Where Floyd reacted with raw emotion and explosive outbursts, Jenkins maintained an icy composure that some interpreted as complete disregard for both the judicial system and his victims. This cold rationality in the face of such horrific crimes created a different kind of courtroom drama, one dominated not by emotional explosions, but by deadly silence and strategic legal maneuvering that would ultimately lead to his sentencing. The prosecution confronted Nico Jenkins with irrefutable proof that established his guilt beyond any reasonable doubt. They presented DNA evidence collected from multiple murder scenes, meticulously matching his genetic profile to the violent crimes he committed. The murder weapon itself carried his biological markers, creating an undeniable connection between Jenkins and the fatal attacks. This forensic evidence formed an airtight case that left no room for alternative explanations or defenses, as Jenkins' spree blatantly breached statutes against premeditated homicide and use of deadly weapons, leaving irrefutable traces that sealed his violations. One dramatic moment in the proceedings captured the essence of their overwhelming case against him. A prosecutor directly confronted Jenkins with the evidence, stating, "Do you not realize I got Nico Jenkins? Do you not realize that I got Nico Jenkins? I got you DNA at the murder scene. I got your DNA in the car, sir. I got the weapon." This direct address highlighted the comprehensive nature of the evidence linking him to each murder. Instead of conceding to the compelling forensic proof, Jenkins responded with loud interruptions and repeated accusations of bias against him. He challenged the fundamental integrity of the judicial process itself, claiming the system was deliberately stacked against him from the beginning. His behavior transcended mere defiance and entered the realm of strategically disruptive conduct designed to undermine the proceedings. Jenkins seemed more invested in creating courtroom theater than mounting any substantive legal defense against the charges. He pleaded no contest to all 4 counts of first-degree murder, a legal maneuver that avoided formally admitting guilt while simultaneously accepting the prosecution's factual allegations. This plea strategy allowed him to bypass a jury trial entirely, opting instead for a three-judge panel to determine his sentence. His actions throughout the legal process communicated one clear and consistent message. He displayed profound indifference toward the consequences of his actions and showed no concern for the devastating impact on the victims' families. This complete absence of remorse, combined with his disruptive courtroom conduct, would significantly influence the judicial panel's ultimate decision regarding his punishment for these calculated and brutal murders.
Turned and she started to scream. That's when I punched her in the face. When I punched her in the face is when she fell down to the floor. I hit Jeffrey Howe until he stopped moving. I don't know how many times I hit him with a hammer.
Michael Brady presented a stark contrast to the emotional outbursts of previous defendants. His defiance emerged not through shouting or disruption, but through cold, calculated intellectual detachment. As the alleged mastermind behind the Pasquotank Correctional Institution attack, Brady stood accused of orchestrating a violent uprising that left 4 prison workers dead. In what prosecutors described as a meticulously planned bloodbath, using improvised weapons emerging from a family scarred by physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, that his mother detailed in court, with Brady receiving no structured education during his turbulent youth that might have fostered better decision-making. The evidence presented showed he had systematically organized the assault that turned the facility into a scene of brutal violence. Throughout his legal proceedings, Brady maintained an unnerving composure that unsettled observers. He displayed no visible emotion as prosecutors detailed the horrific nature of the crimes and the overwhelming evidence against him. When questioned about his actions, he offered chillingly matter-of-fact responses that revealed his complete lack of remorse. He stated directly to the court, "You can ask me anything you want. I'm going to tell the truth, how it was. Whether it hurts me, whether it helps me, I don't care about that." His defiance manifested through provocative exchanges about his mental state and perception of freedom. When directly confronted about whether he believed he was crazy, he responded with firm clarity, "No, I don't think I'm crazy." He then elaborated on his mindset with a statement that would become central to understanding his motivations. "Now, 'cause your freedom meant more than their lives. Yes, that's how I am." This explanation provided insight into his calculated approach, suggesting strategic thinking rather than impulsive rage driving his actions. The prosecution emphasized Brady's role as the originator and leader of the violent plan, stating, "We know who originated the plan. We know who led the plan. We know who put the actions in place to furtherance of the plan. That man, Michael Brady." This narrative positioned him as the central architect of the violence, and his cold intellectual defiance throughout the proceedings only reinforced this characterization. His calculated posture, marked by absence of emotion and strategic responses, proved equally damaging to his case as the emotional outbursts of other defendants, ultimately influencing the jury's assessment of his character and the appropriate punishment for his crimes under North Carolina General Statute 14-17 for first-degree murder during a felony, elevating the charges to capital status. Each defendant's courtroom behavior ultimately sealed their fate, demonstrating how legal outcomes often reflect not just the crimes committed, but the conduct displayed during the judicial process. Mari Floyd's jury returned a unanimous verdict recommending death with the foreperson, stating clearly, "We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Marquise Floyd, should be sentenced to death." This decision followed his explosive outbursts and complete lack of remorse throughout the proceedings, reinforcing the prosecution's argument that he represented a continuing danger to society as his defiance breached courtroom decorum rules under Florida judicial conduct codes. Further justifying the harshest penalty, Nico Jenkins received 4 separate death sentences, one for each of the murders he committed during his Omaha killing spree. The 3-judge panel determined his crimes warranted the ultimate punishment after considering his cold, calculated demeanor and strategic legal maneuvering. His decision to plead no contest while simultaneously challenging the judicial process demonstrated a level of defiance that eliminated any possibility of leniency from the court. Michael Brady also received a death sentence after his jury delivered a unanimous recommendation for capital punishment. The prosecution successfully argued he was the mastermind behind the prison attack that left 4 workers dead, emphasizing his chilling statement that your freedom meant more than their lives. This declaration, combined with his emotionless courtroom presence, portrayed him as someone who would never show remorse or rehabilitation, enforcing North Carolina's death penalty protocol with no appeals for mercy granted due to the premeditated nature of the breach. These outcomes establish a clear pattern in capital cases where defendants choose confrontation over cooperation. The justice system consistently responds to absolute defiance with absolute punishment, particularly when defendants show no regard for the judicial process or empathy for their victims. While remorse and cooperation can sometimes mitigate sentences in criminal cases, these three defendants instead intensified their legal consequences through their behavior. Their actions in court systematically removed any doubt about their character and inherent dangerousness. Each outburst, each cold calculation, and each defiant statement reinforced the prosecution's narrative that these individuals represented an ongoing threat to society. The sentences reflected not only the severity of their crimes, but also their complete rejection of societal norms and the legal system designed to uphold them. This consistent pattern shows how courtroom conduct can become a determining factor between life imprisonment and the death penalty in capital murder cases. These cases reveal how courtroom conduct becomes a critical factor in capital sentencing decisions. When defendants display complete disregard for the judicial process and show no empathy for their victims, the system responds with its most severe punishment. The defiant outbursts of Mari Floyd, the cold calculations of Nico Jenkins, and the emotionless posture of Michael Brady each contributed to their death sentences. Their behavior eliminated any possibility of leniency or jury sympathy. Each decision demonstrates that how defendants face justice can ultimately determine whether they receive life imprisonment or the ultimate penalty under the law. Subscribe and follow Red Tape Red Flag on all platforms. And don't forget to like, share, and comment.